Today, we're looking at a green ink by Sailor Epinard. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. As always, there's timestamps down below in the description, so if you're in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, then put the ink into this Tasha Spectrum with a music nib, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Additional papers will show up later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a little lighter than the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it does offer some speckles of shading throughout. It's very nice in that it's giving a few darker spots in the letters. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is just a hair darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub. It has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer a bit more shading than we're getting in the extra fine. 15 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both does show color variation left to right, and we do get it. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 19 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, about the same tone as the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 26 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we didn't get any. And Rhodia, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some very nice shading that's happening. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. Moments of shading, moments of some darker letters, like you see the K in quick is much darker than the word brown, so there is some in there. It's very subtle. 11 seconds to dry. Medium is slightly darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. Same thing where there's moments of shading, but not really a lot of shading. 16 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both don't really show us color variation, although we do get moments of it in the writing. I agree with Vita that we learn a lot when we do multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this very turquoise color at the bottom, and it pushes up and we get a nice dark green there at the top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, and that turquoise color is really staying on the bottom. It's really showing us that it's going to want to be the hang around color. It pushes up. The green shows that it is not going to be resistant at all. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, we see a lot of feathering that's occurred, some spread, but for the most part, it's held together that it's very readable, making it safe to use in a note-taking situation. Water's lifting all the green elements, but not those turquoise elements. It's leaving all of that behind. Now, I didn't need more than water to get this out of my pen, but that's what's happening on the paper. Pen flush is beginning to break up some of that turquoise, but it's not really getting it off the paper. And the 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper, but you're not going to need that to get it out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Now I'm going to link a video where I show how I test it and how I calculate the data. Sailor's Epinard has a viscosity of 1.66, making this a very wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Sailor's Epinard has an average dry time of 16 seconds, so despite it being very wet, its dry time is normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Sailor Gentle's Epinard, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I went for a nice purple, and I chose Noodler's Kung to Cheng. The second writing sample is done on Life, Levenger, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at Life paper. Now, Life paper has no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading, spots of it's a little bit darker. Like the up and down stroke on the D is darker than the letters around it. Extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of darker letters that do occur, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is a hair darker than the extra fine, not nearly as dark as the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, those spots of shading or spots of darker letters are much more pronounced here than they were here. 15 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for the medium does show a little bit of color variation left to right. The extra fine shows none, but we do get a little bit in the writing. Levenger paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, good shading going on. A lot more standout shading here than we've seen in some of the others. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of darker letters throughout, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, nice shading similar to what we got with the stub with 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, although we do get it in the writing. And Franklin Christoph paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading that occur. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, still spots of shading throughout. 5 seconds to dry. Medium is slightly darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, spots of shading throughout, those spots of shading being some darker letters here and there. 7 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation, although we do get some in the writing, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Sailor's Epinard? It doesn't shade nearly as much as a lot of the green inks that I've come to truly enjoy. However, the tone that it puts down, I really do enjoy. Enough that it caused me to go get a bottle after I went and did all of the reviews. I like this one a lot, even without all of its great shading that some of the other greens tend to give. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? A medium flow broad really puts down a great tone and allows some of the shading to come through. But I have found that I wind up putting it into a Sailor fine nib, so it's a very dry fine nib, and I really like how it looks from there. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.